I had an idea. I was teaching vocal lessons. I knew I could get income from that. I had 1 or 2 residencies, which immediately dissolved after I quit my job, of course.
And was this all in Austin?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my rent wasn't very high because I was living with a boyfriend at the time.
Okay.
And I also knew that I like had a safety net because I was like, I lived with this guy and like he wasn't going to let me starve. I would be okay. And then about 6 months after I quit my job, he dumped me and I had to move out and live with my friends and could not afford groceries.
You're couch surfing.
Yeah. And I couldn't afford groceries for a while. I got kind of thin and everybody's like, you look great. What have you been doing? I'm like, fucking starving.
Try not eating. Yeah, that's the diet plan. Welcome back, America, to Pints and Professionals. Today's episode brings us to Ruthie Craft. And on this episode, we discuss her career. We discuss her co-writing experience. And we discuss her true feelings about South by Southwest. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here's Ruthie. We're ripping right into it, yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you, dog. I'm a night owl, and my day just started an hour before I got here.
Oh, man.
My eyes are puffy. It's because I just woke up.
Well, what did you do last night?
I was working till late. I was just watching some TV and working on copyright stuff. The really exciting part of being a musician, copywriting.
Well, it's not exciting, but it is necessary, right?
Yeah.
What particular copywriting are you doing?
Well, I submitted my EP to be copyrighted, and it was my first time doing that. And then they emailed me back, and they're like, "Hey, you did it wrong." And I was like, "Well, that's not surprising."
Did they give you here's an example?
No. Of course not. It's the government. Of course, their email was very long.
It's true.
It sounded like a robot wrote it. And then just told me what I did wrong. And so I was sitting there. I read the email about 15 times until I could figure out what was going wrong.
How much Googling did you do to learn how to do copywriting?
Lots of Googling.
It's a very useful tool.
Lots of videos. Well, and on the website, they give you here's some instructional videos. You click on the link. There's no video even. So, yeah, to anybody out there who's a small business owner or an artist or whatever, and they're trying to copyright their stuff, Godspeed, honestly. It's a chore.
DM Ruthie Craft on how to do it.
Oh my gosh,
or
please
what
don't.
Not to do.
Please don't. Yeah, I'll tell you what not to do. Don't take my advice. I don't know what I'm doing.
So being a night owl, when did that change? Have you always been a night owl?
Always, ever since I was a kid, much to my mom's chagrin. It was tough.
Yeah?
It was tough, yeah, because I slept late. I stayed up late. Yeah.
I guess it's just those types of people that are more productive at night. I can't do it at night anymore. I have to do it in the morning or else it's never going to get to whatever chores, whatever work I'm doing. It needs to get started right in the morning or else I just lose motivation.
My brain doesn't really turn on till noon
or
so. So for me, it's I've tried it. I've tried the getting up early thing and it just doesn't click.
Doesn't work?
No.
Okay.
I'm more productive at night for sure.
So let's throw it all the way back to where you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you born?
I was born in Tacoma, Washington. I grew up on Fox Island, Washington.
Okay.
Just a little island of about 1,500 people when I was growing up.
How far is that? Part of my notifications. How far is that from Seattle?
When I was a kid, 45 minutes. Nowadays, hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay.
With traffic.
Me and my wife, I think that's our favorite place or part of the country to visit, the Pacific Northwest. It's so beautiful. But for over an extended period of time, I feel like I would get the seasonal depression of it kind of sucked not seeing the sun for a week.
Does. It sure does suck. Why do you think I left? It was horrible.
Do you miss anything about that area?
Yeah, I mean, I miss the ocean. I miss the super tall trees. It makes me feel small and humble in a way.
Yeah.
And just the vastness of the ocean, the sound and the smell of the ocean. A lot of the birds I really miss. We don't have those here in Texas. And but overall, it's a pretty small price to pay for sunshine every day. And we got a lake here, so that's okay. That'll work in the interim. It tides me over.
Sure.
No pun intended. And yeah, I do miss that, but the rain was hard. I mean, it was 9 to 10 months out of the year, clouds and rain. And it makes it really hard to find your motivation. I grew up thinking I was a lazy, depressed kid. I moved to Texas and I realized I'm not lazy or depressed. I was just under the thumb of these clouds my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did your mom do for work?
She raised 5 kids and homeschooled all of us.
Man, wow. That is a hell of a job.
Yeah.
So you have
She's badass.
4 other brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
right?
I have 3 sisters and 1 brother.
Oh, wow. And father? What did he do?
He did construction for like 30 plus years.
Oh, wow.
Had his own construction business. My mom did the books for that on top of homeschooling us.
All right. A real family operation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What'd you do during high school? Or when did you move out of Seattle or Washington?
I moved like 3.5 years ago. So
okay. All right.
Yeah. So it wasn't too long ago.
What was it like going through high school over there?
I was homeschooled, so it was pretty quiet.
Okay.
It was fine. I mean, my social
what were your
circles
classmates
were
like?
Yeah, the worst. It was pretty quiet, except for me because I was the noisemaker of the house.
Okay.
Not surprisingly. and then I did finish out my last 2 years of high school at the local community college. So as I finished high school, I was also getting 2 years of college, which was cool. And that was a bit of a culture shock because I was in like real classrooms for the first time, teachers who weren't my friends' moms, and differences of opinions, diversity of race and backgrounds that I had never experienced before. I was like grew up in a really small, like pretty whitewashed town, upper middle class. And so going across the bridge to Tacoma was like a totally different world.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So along what time did you notice that you felt the urge to be musical or create music? When did you start to notice that itch?
I mean, I always created music with my sisters. We would like sing songs and try to harmonize and stuff and perform for my parents on the fireplace. But around age 13, my parents were watching SNL and saw this girl called Adele perform, and they were like, Ruthie, I think you would really like this girl. You should check her out. And we're like, okay. And this is before like free streaming and stuff. And so we went to the local bookstore to try to find her CD. It took forever because my mom thought her name was Estelle, which is also an artist, but not Adele. And eventually, through a lot of sleuthing, we found the CD. We brought it home. Me and my sisters listened to that CD on repeat every single day, like while we were doing chores and schoolwork and stuff. And I learned... I mean, I don't remember ever being obsessed with something like that until that moment.
Around how old were you around that time?
That was like 13.
Okay.
I think, her first album came out.
Buying CDs, that seemed like so long ago. I have a huge collection in my closet right now that I need to bring out, and I have a CD player in my car. Man, those were the days.
Vintage.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, it's like we're in 8-track time now. Did your parents have to approve of the CDs that you bought? Like
100%.
Mine? Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And my brother would always sneak in some. He snuck in like Weird Al and Akon, I remember,
Akon,
and
throwing it back.
Maybe like Lil Wayne, or there were a couple of rappers that my brother really liked.
Okay.
And my dad was not happy about it. But whenever my brother would drive us around because he's older, he would play his rap, and I remember being like, "This is crazy. This music is wild. It makes me feel so alive and excited." And I had never heard music like that in my whole life because we listened to like Christian music,
sure,
and like soft piano music, and then country music,
okay,
which is what my mom approved of. But
got it. Were you familiar with POD? They were a Christian band for the longest, or
POD,
Payable on Death. They were, I think they're out of Southern California. Anyways, they were big on TRL, and anyways, they were one of my favorite bands growing up. And then, like, I think it was in college that I realized, wait a minute, they're Christian rock. I'm like, oh man, that was awesome. That was great music to listen to.
We had a lot of Switchfoot, a lot of Toby Mac.
Okay,
yeah, the classics. So good.
So when listening to Adele, did that kind of spawn off different artists that you tried to that you listened to? So for example, like when I listened to the White Stripes, I started reading about
the White
them.
Stripes.
Yeah,
That was another CD my brother snuck in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, White Stripes.
Well, but
he had all their CDs.
Okay, there's nothing. Why do you have to sneak the Legend Jack White in?
I don't know. You have to ask, my parents are. I just want to caveat by saying my parents are so much cooler now.
Okay,
but like growing up, they were following the trends of like the community around them, so it was like pretty. I don't want to use the word sheltered because I feel like it puts them in a bad light, but like
protective.
Careful.
They were protective. Yeah,
and careful of what we consumed.
Any good parent is like that. They're protective of their children.
Now I'm super socially awkward though because of it.
But so when I was listening to Jack White or the White Stripes, I learned about all these other bands that they were inspired from. What kind of artists did you listen to because of Adele? Did that spawn anything?
Yeah, I listened to a lot of jazz and blues with my dad. That's what he would listen to out in the man cave. We had a man cave.
Right on.
And then I would listen to I would try to figure out what her influences were. She said Bob Dylan is one of her huge influences and The Cure. So I got into those a lot. And then when Spotify came out, I just kind of followed the algorithms where they took me. And I found a lot of other like Duffy, also the British chick. I'm trying to think of the other ones I listened to around that time. And then more recently, somebody who I feel like, I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine that Lola Young probably has some sort of respect and admiration for Adele. She's this chick out of England and she's phenomenal. I'm obsessed.
Awesome. Around what time did you pick up your first musical instrument?
16, because I was really, really resistant to it. I was like, at first, I was like, I just want to be a singer. I don't even want to write songs. I can't write songs. I'll just have other people write them for me. And then as time went on, I was like, who's going to write these songs for me? My sister wrote some songs, which was cool, but she didn't play an instrument either. So I was like, eventually I'm going to have to figure out how to accompany myself because I wanted to go to open mics and I couldn't. I would sing a cappella at open mics straight up because I didn't know how to play an instrument.
That takes talent.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I bet. Yeah. Okay.
It was pretty fun. But then enough people told me, they're like, just pick up an instrument. Like, just learn a few chords. It's not that hard.
It's really not.
I tried to buy a guitar, a really, really crappy, like pretty much broken guitar from my friend. Tried to learn it till my fingers bled. And it just wasn't, I didn't connect with it very much. It wasn't very fun. It just felt painful. And then I was like, you know what? Forget this. Ukuleles only have 4 strings. How hard could that be? And they're nylon strings too, so they're easier to hold down. Okay. So I ordered this dinky little pink ukulele from Amazon and just started watching YouTube videos and writing my own very, very bad songs. And then the ukulele kind of just ended up sticking with me. And then I came back to guitar and realized, okay, it's not actually that bad.
I think the uke is a lot harder to play than a guitar. I mean, I have a guitar and I can, get through G, C chords, no problem. But when I pick up a uke, I'm like, this is foreign land to me. I have no idea what a chord is. I'm playing one note at a time. And I think that's pretty fascinating. You were able to pick up the uke first and be like, oh, this is easier.
Well, what was fun about it too is like writing songs that aren't quote unquote ukulele songs, because a lot of you see ukulele and you think, okay, it's going to be like sweet Hawaiian or like indie pop vibes. And I was trying to write like soul bearing ripping vocals on the ukulele and it worked.
I think it works. Yeah.
Thanks to my band, that really carries the tune.
Stop it. I think you're that uke playing is it comes through and we hear it as an audience. I know I hear it as a videographer when I go to your shows, but as you kind of developed your sense of style through songwriting, and I know you had other people writing your songs. Do you remember some of the first inspirations that got you to write songs that were truly you?
Adele, really.
Okay.
Because when I listened to her as a heartbroken 16-year-old, because I'd never even been on a date and never had a boyfriend or anything, but I really liked this boy that I grew up with in my homeschool community, and I liked him for years and years, as long as I could remember. And I remember like realizing when he didn't like me back, and I would lay in my bed and I would just listen to Adele on repeat and just cry and wail. And I felt like she understood me. I felt like, you know what, she's being dramatic, but I'm dramatic. Like, I feel like she gets me, and she's so unapologetic about it. She's always like, a lot of the female vocalists these days are writing a lot about like how a man wronged them, like strong, independent female power, which is awesome. Love all that. But also there was something about Adele that was so vulnerable, and she wasn't afraid to say like, yeah, this guy, this heartbreak, you know, really messed me up. And I'm going to sing about it. And I'm going to talk about how much I want this guy and he doesn't want me back. And I was like, that's me. I feel just like that. And so I started to write songs like that because, that's how I felt, always kind of pining after a guy who didn't want me back. And later on, it developed as I got older and more complex emotional themes.
Adult life happens.
Adult life, yeah. I still a lot of heartbreak because that still happens. It just becomes more nuanced.
Right. Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning was the album for me that really hit me in the feels after the breakup. I was like, oh, she doesn't love me anymore. We were supposed to get married. And this was me at 17. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Everybody
I
has
had this
that
life
one,
planned out.
Everybody has that one album that they listened to on repeat after a breakup.
Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning is my jam. That always hits me in the feels every time I listen to it. But with that, do you ever, I remember that album being on a repeat, and now it's tough to listen to just because I do feel a little bit of shame of how I came into that album. But it's I don't know, it's tough, but it's also very nostalgic, and I love feeling nostalgic. Right. So do you have any issues like that listening to Adele and being like, oh God, what was I thinking?
No, because it holds up. I feel like all of her songs just, here's the reason I think they hold up. It really has little to do with the production, because the production was pretty straightforward. But I think it was because it was so vulnerable. It was authentic. It was how she was feeling at the time. And you can tell they were the songs that she wrote, and nobody wrote them for her. That's why I think music holds up, is when it's written from a place of authenticity. So for me, no, I don't feel that. There are definitely artists and songs that I go back to that I used to listen to when I was a teenager, and I was like, yikes. Wow. I'm not going to name any names, but there are some.
So as you go on through life, what were some of the occupations or careers that you did while kind of being a musician or blossoming to become a musician?
My first job was picking up rocks and sticks in my neighbor's yard so that they could mow.
Nice. That's a good job.
For a few bucks an hour. Yeah. That was 11 years old.
Okay. I've started early.
Yeah, I've been working since I was 11 years old.
Good for you.
I like working.
Yeah.
And my dad is like that. He's got an amazing work ethic, and he instilled in us at a young age that if you're standing still, then you're being lazy.
I know.
Which has also had its downsides.
Yeah.
Because it's been hard to learn how to relax.
Did you grow up Catholic, Christian, Baptist? Christian, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, growing up Catholic, there was always this sense of guilt for everything that we did.
Christians have a guilt.
Yeah, it's like, why am I feeling guilty? I shouldn't. I'm just, why? This feeling sucks.
The Lord himself rested on the seventh day. Right, so take a break.
Give yourself a break.
I rest on Sundays now.
Good.
Non-negotiable. Because I do church and then I sleep or I watch TV or do whatever I need to, because the rest of the 6 days are way more productive that way.
Yeah, good. Well, that's a good way to go about it.
But yeah, so anyway, I started 11 years old doing that, and then I started babysitting those kids when I got a little bit older.
Yeah.
The neighbor kids, did a lot of babysitting. Then I got a job down the street as a stockroom assistant for somebody's small business that they ran out of their house. Did that for a couple years, decided I was lonely, and it was time for me to have a social group for the first time in my life. I was 16, or I was 18. And so I decided to go work at a coffee shop and become a barista. Did that for a little while. Got to actually talk to people every day, which was really cool for me. Develop my social skills.
Is there a difference between a pour over and a drip coffee?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I've been wanting to get into drip, but I'm sorry, pour overs, but it just seems way elaborate. And I do grind my own beans on Saturdays just so we have a different flavor of coffee. Yeah. But I could never get into pour overs. I don't know. Well, what's the difference? What's the nuances?
So I have a pour over. I have a Chemex, which is a type of pour over.
Sure. Yeah.
And
familiar.
It's actually, somebody might correct me. I think it's a type of pour over. Technically, a pour over is when you have like the cone on top of the cup and you're just pouring coffee just into that cup. It's like very small batch. It's super fresh. The benefit to it is that when you're doing a drip coffee, you ask for a drip coffee from a coffee shop. They have a gigantic thing. I don't remember what it's called, like a vat of coffee that they're pulling from that could have been brewed a few minutes ago, but more likely it was brewed a few hours ago. So you can, if you're like a coffee connoisseur, you can taste a little bit of the staleness, whereas a pour over is super fresh. They just grinded the beans. They just put the beans in the cone and you're pouring it over fresh. So that's like the best way you can have coffee, I think.
Okay. It is also the most time consuming because it does take effort, but
it's also the most like hipster, ridiculous thing ever. So like if you have the time for it in between watering your plants and like journaling and whatever hipsters do, then
can you write like a step-by-step list on your typewriter for me so that way I can do it? That would be nice.
Yeah, in between journaling on your typewriter.
You know, keep it authentic. So you're barista. What else?
And then after that, I dropped out of community college. I was going to be a radiology tech. I wanted to be in the medical field, but I was scared of blood. And I figured radiology tech, you're not going to have to clean up blood or anything.
Right,
so,
yeah.
But then towards the end of that, I almost had all of my prereqs done, and I came home and I told my parents, like, I actually just want to be a singer. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna quit college. And they're like, well, then you're gonna pay us rent if you're gonna live here. And I was like, done. And never looked back. Trade. But in between that, still had to make money. So then I was a barista for quite a while, then a server, did a lot of waitressing, cocktail server. Which was a fun experience as a cocktail server because people would ask for drinks and I didn't know what they were. Like somebody would ask for a whiskey neat and I'm like, and I go to the bartender and I'm like, hey, what does this mean? Did I write this down right? And they're like, it just means whiskey. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why didn't they just say that?
Because it's cooler to say neat.
Like rocks?
We want to feel cool.
Oh, rocks is ice. Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I had to learn all these drink names because I wasn't like a drinker really.
Sure.
So but anyway, moved to North Carolina for a while, got married very, very young, and lived in a trailer for 3 years in the woods in North Carolina, which was a horrible experience. Not even going to lie about that. And then got out of that, went back to serving. And then during the pandemic, everybody had to wear masks. And I was like, well, I might as well get a job where I have to wear a mask anyway. So I became a dental assistant.
Oh, okay.
Because I was about to turn 26 and I was going to have to get off my mom's insurance. Yeah. And I was like, let me go get a real job. And it turned out after I went through the course that so many dental offices don't actually offer health insurance. So I was screwed either way, but did that for a while. And when I came here, I was a dental assistant. And then I eventually took the leap and quit my job to do music full time because there just wasn't enough time to do both.
Now, when you told your parents you wanted to do music full time, obviously they said you had to pay rent. Did they offer you any advice of like, hey, this is going to be a struggle. This is going to be tough. You're going to have to work way harder.
I wouldn't call that advice, but they did say, this is going to be hard, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
They offered some insights in a loving way, I'm sure.
But they're not musicians. They know nothing about the entertainment industry. Sure. They're not. Well, my dad used to be an artist, but beyond that, they had no idea what I was getting into. They just knew that it was an impossible dream.
They raised an eyebrow because it's not the traditional 9 to 5, and obviously they want the best for you.
Not only that, but to be fair to my parents, I was a lazy kid. I slept so much. I didn't have a lot of drive or ambition, and so they said, "Oh, so you're going to be like self-employed? You're going to set your own hours and be in charge of your own ambition? Good luck, kid." And I don't even blame them. And it took years for them to come around and say, "Hell yeah, you did it."
Do you remember the day they were like, "Hey, you turned out all right, kid. Or was there a moment like that?
There were a couple of moments where it started to happen. My mom was really excited when I got to sing with Keith Urban.
Oh, okay.
When I was 19, I won like a contest on the radio, and I got to perform with him in front of 10,000 people at the state fair. Yeah. And I had never even performed my own show. I had only done.
I was going to
mics.
say, for someone who's never really had experience in being in social circles, what the hell was that like? Seeing 10,000 faces looking at you.
I'm not. People think I'm lying when I say this. I wasn't actually very nervous.
Okay, good.
Because I think I'd pictured it so many times in my mind.
You played it out in your head.
Yeah, because I knew that's what I wanted. I knew I belonged on a stage that big. So by the time it happened, Keith Urban even asked me, he's like, "Are you nervous?" And I was like, "Nah." I was like, "I'm just pretty excited to be here." And my mom was in the back like, "Are you nervous? Are you nervous?" She's like, "I'm going to pee my pants. I can't be here." She was so nervous. And of course, like, I did a good job. I had practiced a lot and it worked out fine. But that was a big moment where she was like, that was the first moment where she realized how talented I was, because it was, as a parent, you don't know if it's just, oh, my daughter's so talented, or do other people think she's talented? And when I got to sing with Keith, she realized, okay, other people think she's talented. Maybe there's something to this. And then another few years went by. And when she came to visit me in Austin and saw me perform and saw the reactions of the crowd, that's when she was like, she got teary-eyed. They came to a show in Dallas where I opened for Shaky Graves, and both of them were like, when I got off stage, both of them had tears in their eyes. It was really amazing.
That's such a sweet moment.
It was really cool.
Was Keith nice? Was he cool? Did he offer any moments of inspiration or words of advice? Unfortunately,
I only got to interact with him on stage. So he's a busy guy.
Yeah, no, I get that.
He kept to himself before the show.
Okay.
But on stage, we chatted a little bit, and he seemed very, very friendly. He smelled like a dream. Wow. He smelled so good. I still remember. Much shorter in person.
Okay.
Google's lying about his height. 100%.
What's his height at? Like 6 foot?
On Google, when I checked, it was like 5'10", and then I saw him walk past in the green room, and I was like, this guy's 5'7".
Oh, he's like
5'8".
Oh yeah, he's like 5. Okay, all right, cool. That's my height.
Yeah, he's much shorter than, but if you have enough money, you can
for sure
change Google.
Yeah.
But he did offer. He offered. I don't know. He just said good luck. He was really friendly. I got to hug him, which was like such a dream.
I bet.
And then he did give me a guitar.
Oh,
it was
really?
waiting for me in the green room when I got off stage.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I just imagine for someone, like, when you're performing on stage, especially with somebody else, you kind of want to get the vibe of like, hey, is this person not talented, but do we have like a working experience together? Because when you hire musicians to go on stage with you, I'm sure you're familiar with their background. Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting thing for Keith Urban to do. But what I was going to ask. After you were working as a dental assistant, what did you have a plan to go full time into music? Did you have a financial plan? I know the gears were already turning in your head, but did you have some sort of financial plan going into like, hey, I'm going to be a musician, or was it just spur of the moment?
Yeah, I mean, plan is.
Do you have an idea?
Loosely. I had an idea. I was teaching vocal lessons. I knew I could get income from that. I had 1 or 2 residencies, which immediately dissolved after I quit my job, of course.
And was this all in Austin?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my rent wasn't very high because I was living with a boyfriend at the time.
Okay.
And I also knew that I had a safety net because I was like, I lived with this guy and he wasn't going to let me starve. I would be okay. And then about 6 months after I quit my job, he dumped me and I had to move out and live with my friends and could not afford groceries.
You're couch surfing.
Yeah. And I couldn't afford groceries for a while. I got kind of thin and everybody's like, you look great. What have you been doing? I'm like, fucking starving.
Try not eating. Yeah, that's the diet plan.
And but ultimately what saved my ass was learning how to play guitar and play solo shows. I was really nervous about that.
Sure.
But sitting down, playing a 3-hour solo show was the only way I was going to actually make it. Mm-hmm. And then I also got this job working for Total Wine and More. I do their commercials. So I do all their on-screen commercials, their voiceovers, and now their jingles. And once I got an agent, and then the money started kind of rolling in, and the royalties started kind of accumulating. Then I was like, I got a really fat check one day. I looked at my friend and I was like, hey, I'm moving out. Actually, she told me to move out. That's really the truth. But I was like, that's fine. I can do it.
I'm tired of your shit.
Yeah.
Doesn't Adele have a song like Rolling in the Deep?
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. I missed that. There was a joke to be made that because anyways, it doesn't matter. I fucked it up. But, okay. So when you, going through those hardships, I'm sure that spurred inspiration to write about it, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. I didn't write a lot about the money side of things.
Sure.
It just didn't. I honestly was like too sad to write. I was also going through a really bad breakup.
Yeah.
And like my whole world fell apart a couple summers ago.
Sure.
Like just crumbled, and I had to pick up the pieces, figure out how to support myself financially and emotionally.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I went through a lot.
Now, moving away from your support system, I think that's pretty brave in itself.
Or stupid.
Or stupid. Hey, both can work. What made you want to do that? To leave that your entire, I would say, your life back in the Pacific Northwest?
Couple of reasons. One, I really just knew that I needed sunshine to be a complete human.
That's important.
Yeah. Two, Washington had nothing left for me. I hadn't necessarily reached the ceiling in the music community there yet, but I saw it coming, and I wasn't going to wait until I hit that ceiling to finally make a move. I knew that I was already starting to feel like a big fish in a small pond, and I wanted to feel like a small fish in a big pond because I wanted to stretch myself creatively and mentally. And I think I had a lot to prove to myself because I grew up being very reliant on my mom emotionally and financially, on my parents or other men or something like that. And so I think I just wanted to prove to myself that I was a strong, independent woman who needed no man or my mommy. And I had to move away to figure out how to support myself. It was a challenge.
I'm thinking about all the great bands that came out of the Pacific Northwest, mostly like, grunge bands, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, obviously, and Melvins. Elliott Smith had some time up there. But I guess when I visit there, I'm like, if I was a musician, I would want to, I don't know, be part of that in some form or fashion. But I guess you had different desires to take your career elsewhere. And
I never fit there. The music... Yeah. The music in Seattle was not my vibe. It was very indie rock and grunge and stuff. And that I wanted to just write pop songs about men who broke my heart. And it turns out Austin's actually not the place for that either. I soon found out. But I am more accepted here than I ever felt in Washington. It's just a community here where people support each other, and it's just different.
Are you familiar with Andrea McGee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
No, yeah, she's awesome. And she told me a story of how, like, when she came to Austin, like, there was a family that loved her music so much that they, like, pretty much put her up in their second home rent free. And I'm like,
oh, what?
Yeah. I'm like, I had no idea that.
That's Austin Texas, though, for you.
For sure. Yeah. That's that Southern loving that we're, so proud to be associated with.
Yeah.
So no financial plan.
Not really. No,
not really. Yeah, just making it work.
It was basically like a leap and the net will appear kind of thing.
The teaching element. That's something that this other drummer, Chris Mead, also kind of talked to me about when he first got to Austin. He's like, I could teach. So when it comes to teaching individuals, what is your curriculum that you go into when you're trying to teach someone?
It depends on the student and how old they are and how much experience they have. I was teaching at a school up in Cedar Park, mostly kids.
That's very hard to do.
And a lot of the kids had little to no experience, and really we had to start at the very basics with just
Yeah.
pitch. We spent a long time just getting them to like sing this note, ding, 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 ding. No, this one. No, this note. No, lower. No, okay, higher. Split the difference. This note, ding, ding, ding. And so that was like, it was a little bit draining for me. I think I do better teaching adults because you get to get into the nuance of vocals.
Yeah.
I'm not because I didn't take vocal lessons as a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
I taught myself all the basics and more. And by the time I actually took vocal lessons, we were learning the fun stuff and the nuance. And so I actually realized that I wasn't a very good beginner vocal teacher because I don't remember learning the basics. I just remember knowing the basics.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it does.
I don't teach anymore. I'm not very good at it, to be honest with you.
Gee, tell me why.
But
No,
adult students are fun, and I love doing that. Kids are like not. There are people better suited for it.
Sure. Yeah. So, do you ever feel a sense of imposter syndrome at all as an artist?
I did a lot when I started to get a little bit popular for the first time in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting popular here in Austin, and people were like listening to my music when people would come to my shows, and I'm like, who are you? And they would buy merch or take pictures with me, and I'm like, but I don't know you.
Yeah.
You're just a fan.
That's weird, right?
It was really, really trippy. So I did deal with that for a while. And then I was listening to a podcast a while back, and they said something about imposter syndrome and how like it's stupid. If you have worked to get where you are at and you are good at your craft, there is no place for imposter syndrome. You're not an imposter because people are listening to your music.
Yeah.
People think it's good. So you're not an imposter to think, I have good music.
Yeah. I get that sense, but I frown and make those facial expressions because I just think of my work and what I do. Like, there's just so many moments of what the fuck was I thinking trying to get that shot? Like, you should have known better to be in a better position. You should have anticipated this. I guess what I'm saying is I'm pretty hard on myself.
Yeah.
So how do you find yourself not being so hard on yourself? How do you have grace amongst yourself?
It's something that I'm always working on, and it helps to have good, honest friends around you. I talk to my mom multiple times a week. She keeps me humble, but she also reminds me that I am capable. Mm-hmm. She's really a straight shooter, so she doesn't fluff me up. She doesn't sugarcoat anything, but she is honest. Like, you are good and you know what you're doing. Or like when I'm going through something where I'm like, I can't do this. I bit off more than I can chew. What am I going to do? And she's like, you're being ridiculous. Like, you've done harder things. She's like, you can do this. I'm like, but how? I don't know how I'm going to do it. I need your help. She goes, you don't need my help. You're fine. Yeah. And she's always right. And I always end up figuring it out. But that's like your support network. The people that you keep close to you, who you trust, is like number one. I journal a lot, and like my faith, praying and reading the Bible and connecting to my church and my God is really important for keeping me grounded. It's for keeping me humble, and also reminding me where my talent came from and where my blessings come from. So that's a good way to like not get too carried away, that like this was a gift that was given to me and I have a responsibility to use it responsibly. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, the more you practice, the more the imposter syndrome starts to fizzle out, because you've worked to get where you're at.
Yeah, I think what is also helping me with the imposter syndrome is I'm just getting too busy to care about those insignificant feelings.
Yeah, they serve no purpose.
They do,
It's a waste of time.
It's a rocking chair, right?
Right.
You're just going to use it to go nowhere. What is something that you, when you do bite off more than you can chew, what is that? Is it appearances? Is it events? Is it writing? Is it
I have this
total wine and more jobs?
I have this tendency to be a time optimist. My mother says that I have poor time management, but I say that I'm a time optimist, where I think I can do all these things in a certain amount of time, and I realize that I can't. So for instance, for an example, last year during South by, I had a bunch of gigs. That whole month of March, I had 23 gigs, and I've never played that many gigs in a row.
Okay, I was going to say, what is a reference for that? How many gigs are you playing on a normal month? You would say.
Between like solo, duo, and band gigs, maybe 5 to 8.
Okay, and you did 23.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what ended up happening was and at the beginning of April, we did a gig. We drove to Bentonville, played a show there. I started to feel really sick. I thought maybe I had COVID or something. It's like something was not right. I was really tired. By the time I got back, a few days passed, and I had to go to the ER because I had a really severe kidney infection that I was trying to push through, but I was like, I couldn't breathe, so I had to go. And basically they're like, what are you doing? Like, how come you didn't notice this was happening? And I was like, I was busy. So that was a big wake up call for me. That's also why I take one day off a week, non-negotiable, to like take care of my body, listen to my body. But that was an example of biting off more than I can chew, because I was like, how hard could it be? And even though I was sleeping a decent amount, I was not drinking enough water. And the more you move, the more you use your brain, the more you move your body, and especially singing dehydrates you. People don't realize this, how dehydrating singing is. You need so much extra water as a vocalist. And when you're doing 23 gigs a month, you need a lot of water. And my body got so dehydrated and just started shutting down.
I noticed that Grayson brings his like liter of water everywhere he goes. And so now I understand it. I'm like, okay.
I bring my water bottle everywhere I go. Even in the winter, it's like you just have to hydrate. So that was an example of biting off more than I could chew. Learned a big lesson from that. I don't do that as much these days. I'm learning how to say no to some. I don't have to say yes to every single opportunity. I have to weigh the pros and cons and decide, like, is this really going to move me along, or is this just like a fun gig I want to play, or is this really worth the money, or is this just I'm playing it because I feel like I have to?
Yeah. Making those decisions, because I suffer from that too. I always feel like I have to be busy in order for me to grow and sustain this business. And I know that's not the case, but also it's kind of fun to go shoot in abandoned neighborhood parking lots.
Yeah.
But like, what are some things that kind of tick that box of like, I'm completely exhausted, but hey, this thing popped up, let me go do that?
It would have to be a very, very good opportunity as far as like either exposure or networking opportunity, maybe playing a show with a really cool band or getting to write with somebody that I really respect. And then there's also the monetary thing, like if it pays a lot. But I've turned down some really nice paying gigs because I knew that I needed rest.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's going to be more. If these gigs are coming in now, then there's going to be more of them. And I have lived my whole life with a scarcity mindset, with money, with relationships.
Same.
Yes. And so you feel like you have to take everything. You feel like you have to date every boy and take every job because you're not sure when the next one's going to come around.
Right.
And I'm learning to step away from that and realize, like, wait, I actually have a lot of people hitting me up for gigs. And if this gig came in, there's going to be another gig down the road. Is it worth my mental and physical health, or the possibility of me sacrificing my mental or physical health to take this show? And I'm learning how to say no to things, and it's hard.
God, it's so hard.
It's really hard.
That sense of scarcity, especially as an artist, and in my case, a creative, it's like, well, I don't know when the next job's going to come, so I better take this one, even if it's for like $20.
And the way I think about it is, yeah, dude, exactly. And I did that for so long. The way I've been thinking about it is, if I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, because people ask me all the time, they're like, I hate this question. I've had guys I've dated ask me this. So when are you going to stop? And I was like, what?
Stop what?
They're like, when you get married and have kids, are you going to like, and I'm like, no, I'm going to do it all.
Around it.
I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
I'm always going to do this till the day I die. I'm going to be writing and performing and singing. Now that's hopefully, God willing, a long ways from now.
Yeah.
I'm only 29. So if I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, I better pace myself.
Yeah, that's true.
This is a marathon, not a sprint.
But it's fun to run sometimes.
It is fun to run.
Get
and there are
that.
moments where you need to sprint for sure. And you need to like grind. But also, if I'm going to do this forever, I can't keep going back to the ER for kidney infections. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry.
I can't keep getting sick.
I shouldn't be laughing at that,
No,
but that's
it's funny now. It's been a year. I'm not worried about it. And that wasn't my first kidney infection either. That wasn't my first. That wasn't my first ER visit because of exhaustion and not taking care of my body. So that's the way I think about it is like, I want to do this forever. And if that means that for 2 days in a row, I'm just going to be a couch potato and do nothing but watch TV and sleep, then that's what I need to do, because 5 years from now, I'm not going to look back and be like, you know what really put a dent in my career? Those 2 days where I rested. You're never going to say that.
right. And you never remember those. Well, I take that back. I do remember when I rested, and it was on my wife's our anniversary. And the previous years we go out to dinner, we do the fancy thing, and this year we just blew up the air mattress. We ordered Jet's Pizza.
Oh.
We watched TV, we watched movies, and we played video games.
Bro, that's the kind of relationship I want. That is so beautiful because it's in the small things. You were together.
Right. Yeah. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
We love going to resorts. We love doing all that stuff, but just blowing up the air mattress and being lazy pieces of shit for one day in our lives. It was a beautiful moment. And I will always remember our 5th year anniversary for that. The other 4 were great, but this one was just like, this is fun.
Yeah, that's adulting right there.
It is.
Just
it really
enjoying your rest.
Because she's a wound care nurse, and all the stress and drama that goes into that career on a day-to-day basis, it's like,
I can't imagine.
Yeah, and we don't really talk about her day at the dinner table because it's gross. So it's mostly me just being like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, let's skip that part. Talk to me about your walk to the hospital. Yeah. How was that? But yeah, she's awesome. Now, where you were on American Idol, right? I think I saw that.
I was.
Can you talk about, or do you want to talk about that? Is that okay to talk about? Okay. What was that experience like? I have so many questions. How did you get involved? Who did you meet? Whose hands did you shake?
Yeah.
Did that guy with the plastic surgery face tell you you're terrible? I forget his name.
Are you talking about Simon Cowell?
Yeah.
He hasn't been on there in years.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna get more comfy here. So, I had been auditioning for American Idol and like all the singing TV shows since I was old enough to do so, because I thought that was my ticket. I didn't see any other way. I thought that was my ticket to like success in music. And so every single year I tried out for all the shows that I could. And then it was my 10th time auditioning for American Idol. And actually this
10th time?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah. But it was maybe like my 15th time trying out for like a show in general. And they actually hit me up. A casting producer found me on social media and asked me if I wanted to audition. And I was like, yeah. And I skipped the cattle call auditions. I auditioned for the producers upstairs in Seattle, and then I went on to the next round. I did
What was that like? Like, talk to me from the moment you drove into the parking lot to walking up there. One, how did you find parking? Because that's always my biggest thing. Anytime I go to any event,
I don't remember. My mom came with me. Thank God.
God, good for you.
Yeah, because I get nervous in crowds, which seems ironic, but I'm not nervous when I'm on stage. I'm nervous when I'm in the crowd. But I walked in there, and like I had been to these auditions before with like there's hundreds and hundreds of people there all thinking that their dreams are going to come true today.
Yeah.
And I got to skip all that and walk upstairs into a quiet room with one producer, and which was really nerve-wracking because it was super quiet.
Yeah, it's really awkward.
It's awkward. It's nerve-wracking. And then they liked me. They sent me through. They then like had me do my songs again and recorded me on an iPhone, sent it to the higher up producers, waited, I don't know, a couple weeks or so. And I got a call saying like, okay, we want you to do another callback. And the only time they could do it was in the middle of my workday. I worked at a cafe in downtown Gig Harbor. And this is supposed to be kept secret. You're not really supposed to tell people you're doing this process or whatever. And I had to tell my boss like, hey, I have to leave later today for an American Idol audition. It's a callback. It's serious. Like I might actually get on the show. And she was like, I got you. I'll cover your tables. She covered my tables. I ran out to my car, changed my shirt, ripped my shirt in the process, and then really quickly turned on my phone and like sang in my Prius in a parking lot for them. And I think it went well, because then later on I got a call from the casting director asking me if I wanted to be on American Idol. Okay. And then fast forward, this whole process was a few months, several months, starting in the summer. And then in like October, I went to, of all places, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho was one of the judge auditions, on a boathouse in like 30-degree weather. What? And I waited all day long on the boathouse with some of my family members, and then went in, sang for, it was Lionel Richie, Luke Bryan, and Katy Perry. And that was crazy, because walking in, I'm out here shivering, and I was like, now I have to take off my jacket. I'm so freaking cold. It's really hard to sing when you're cold. Really hard to sing.
Yeah,
you're super shaky already because you're nervous, and you're shaky because you're cold. So I'm like, and I'm like, Ryan Seacrest is like asking me questions, and I'm like, I can't do this. And we open these gigantic doors. Like, it just felt like a movie. It felt like a dream, because I had dreamt it so many times.
Yeah.
And we open these giant doors, and I walk into this really big echoey space, and there's lights and there's cameras, and there's the judges over here. And on TV, it looks like the judge table is way closer to you. They were so far away, I could like barely see them. I could only hear them because they were mic'd up.
Were like the lights, like the spotlights were on you, and was it kind of dark out?
No, spotlights were on them.
Oh, okay.
They looked like, have you ever been to a wax museum?
Yeah.
That's what they looked like. They didn't look real.
Creepy.
It was so weird. They just were so caked with makeup and lights, and everything was so picture perfect. I'd never seen anything like it. And as I walked past, I could smell them. Like, they're expensive, like celebrities. Have you ever met a celebrity?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to now.
When you meet like a bona fide celebrity, remember these words. They smell better than anybody else you will ever smell, because they can afford the most expensive and usually custom perfume and cologne, because Keith Urban smelled amazing. When I shook Katy Perry's hand, I was like, I literally told them,
I'm never washing this hand again.
When I shook their hand, I was like, God, you guys smell good. And they all laughed. I was like, I can't believe I just said that. They didn't show my audition on TV, but it was cool. I sang my song, and then Katy Perry made some comment about me reminding her of Kelly Clarkson, which I thought was really cool.
That's a hell of a compliment.
Yeah, they said I was like the whole package and everything, and they gave me 3 yeses, and I got the golden ticket, and that was an unbelievable, but it happened so fast.
Yeah.
I wish I could have slowed down time. And then I came out, and Ryan Seacrest was there, and I held up my golden ticket, and he asked me some questions, and my mom's screaming, everybody's freaking out, and it was wild. It was such a beautiful, it was a bucket list. That was like, check.
Sure.
If that's all that happened to me, just getting the golden ticket, I couldn't even believe it. It was cool.
And did anything, what was the ROI on that appearance or that experience, if anything, whether it be personal or just like, hey, I did it?
Like, career-wise, it wasn't as big of a deal as you'd think. It made me hometown famous for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
I got a couple of cool opportunities for it because I had clout.
Yeah.
And I only made it to, I'm actually glad I didn't make it farther, because I've talked to people who have made it farther that it actually hindered their career. So I made it to the end of Hollywood Week. I didn't make it to the live shows, but I did all 3 rounds in Hollywood. And yeah, it gave me some clout, which was cool. But I think more than anything, personally, it stretched me because it pushed me past what I thought my limit was. And it showed me what I was capable of. Really, if I hadn't had that experience, I don't think I would have I know that I would not have the work ethic and the drive that I do now, because over 6 days, I got like 10 hours of sleep. I was so sleep deprived. I was sicker than I've ever been in my entire life. I think I had COVID, like before we knew that it was COVID.
Yeah.
I was writhing in pain, and then the cameras come by, and you're like, you wipe your tears, and you're like, hi. And you pretend that you're not in pain, which was a mistake, because I realized I could have gotten more screen time had I told them I was sick. But now I know for next time, if there's a next time. But personally, it stretched me. It taught me how much I was capable of when I am doing something that I believe in, that I want more than anything. Because if I were working for somebody else and they were treating me like that, I'd be like, screw this, I'm out.
No, yeah.
But because it was for my dream, I realized like I could not be stopped. I could do whatever it took to make my dreams come true.
Yeah.
So that was really the biggest ROI for me.
Okay.
And I then like a couple thousand Instagram followers maybe, and then that's that.
Yeah. Well, that's
I met some cool people too.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with some of the folks I met. I just wrote a song. My newest song, I Found You, I wrote with one of my American Idol buddies in Nashville. So like I still connect with them.
When you do write songs with other people, what is that like? Because I could never fathom collaborating on like a video. It's basically I'm editing it, you give me the revisions, and then we go from there. So what is that process like in writing with someone else?
It's really hard at first. When I first started getting into co-writing, it was you have to leave your ego at the door, because you come in with an idea and then maybe somebody has a better idea or a different way to phrase it, and you're like, but and you have to realize it's not personal. It has nothing to do with your abilities or your talent. For me, co-writing is 100% of the time a learning opportunity and a growth opportunity. So you can't learn and you can't grow if you have too big of an ego. If you walk into a classroom and you think you know more than the teacher, you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to walk out frustrated. So I walk into a writing room knowing I'm just going in assuming that I am the worst writer in the room. But also it's a hard thing to balance, because I also want to show up being competent and confident, but humble. So like I'm confident in my abilities. However, it's likely that this person I'm writing with is better, and I'm going to be willing to hear their suggestions, but also learn how to stand on my own 2 feet. If I think something is better, stand like, no, actually, I really don't want to change this line, and I'm going to die on that hill.
Now, how do you do that as, I don't know how to ask this question anyway. How do you do that as a woman? Because
that's a great question.
That's another complexity to the entirety of your career.
That's a really good question. I try my best not to think about it, because I'm cognizant of not having a victim mentality, and I don't want to walk into a room assuming that everybody's a misogynist. I assume from the get-go, unless you prove me otherwise, that you are respectful of women and that you see me as an equal collaborator as any other man in the room. Now, sometimes I'm wrong about that. Sometimes, every once in a while, there are people that don't take me seriously or talk over me because they don't think I know what I'm doing. But it doesn't actually happen that much. And I think when you look for those things, they show up more. I look for people to be good and respectful, and usually that's who shows up. And so, and these days I've been doing it long enough, and I have enough competency in my field that I think I don't really get a lot of pushback typically in writers' rooms or with producers or whatever. I don't think they're treating me, I wouldn't know because I've never been a man, but like I don't think they're treating me any differently than they would treat a guy. Mm-hmm. But I have experienced that. I've been like just out and about after, I remember this one time after a show here in Austin, and we get off stage and I just performed, and my bandmates are talking to these friends that they know, like kind of acquaintances. And these guys are only talking to my bandmates, and I'm right here. I'm the one that just performed my show. And they're literally talking past me. I'll talk. They talk right over me. Like I'm not even there. Didn't even make eye contact with me. Or I'll jump in and I'll offer a opinion on this music thing they're talking about. And it was like I didn't even exist. And I was like, and my boyfriend at the time was like, that was crazy, because he recognized it too. Now, again, it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while, yeah, people are just going to be the way they're going to be. And sometimes, ultimately, like, I don't have anything to prove. If somebody doesn't want to be a decent human and like respect me, then that's fine. We don't have to be friends. Like, we don't have to hang out. I'm not going to be mad at you or whatever, you know? I have to just let it go. Every day I have to let things like that go.
Let it go.
It doesn't serve me.
Yeah. So how many studios have you recorded in?
Good question. Oh God,
Too many?
a lot.
Okay.
A lot, but honestly, where I record mostly is my closet,
Okay.
and then I send the files to my producer.
Yeah. I want to kind of talk about the work that Studio 601 is doing.
Oh hell yeah!
What is it like working with those boys over there?
Mike and Eric are fam. I love them. They're so cool. They reached out to me a while back, and I was just like, nah, like I record in my closet. It's fine. I don't need to pay for studio time. I work with these guys on the East Coast. I'm fine. And they're like, just come and just meet us. And I was like, okay, fine. And so I realized they were only like a couple minutes from my house. And I was like, okay.
Oh, you live in this area?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
like 2 minutes from their studio.
Awesome. Good.
And I came in and we had a good chat. And I was like, oh, these guys are dope. And we started talking about like Theo Katzman. I was like, you guys know Theo Katzman? They're like, yeah, we love how he does everything so raw and authentic, and he does minimal overdubs. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's the direction I want to go, because being in the pop world, it's so comped and polished, and it loses, it's like the uncanny valley. Like it loses some of the authenticity. And they're like, yeah, we're all about that. And they told me some of the other artists they work with, they played me some of their songs, and I was like, oh, these guys are actually really good. I'm so nervous working with new producers because you just don't know if you're going to vibe.
Right.
Or if they're going to like really do a good job. And I was like, I'm going to take my chances with them. And they've been awesome. And they're just so fun to work with. They've been so awesome.
Anytime I get an invite to go film an artist or just capture something for them, it's like, oh man, I'm going to Shangri-La. I'm going to, Rick Rubin's place. This place is, it's just, it makes me inspired just to be better at what I do.
Yeah.
See the way they interact with artists, see the way they go through the process, see the way that they're just unfiltered in the most beautiful way. It's really inspirational. And so, yeah, I love those guys. Shout out Studio 601.
Yeah.
How has that experience changed the way you write or think about the recording process?
My experience with them?
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
In fact, I've taken some of the things I've learned with them into working with my other producers.
Sure.
And for instance, typically the way you'd record a pop song, what I've historically done is you go first verse, do 1,000,000 takes, second verse, 1,000,000 takes. Then you go to the bridge, 1,000,000 takes, then you do the choruses, and then you do the last chorus. And you do it in sections out of order because of like mic settings, and it's just easier to comp and all this stuff. However, when I started recording with Mike and Eric and I started singing the entire song, I did multiple takes of the entire song, and then we would go back and just dub over little mistakes here and there. I got such a more authentic, more beautiful product. So I've been suggesting that to my current producers I work with on the East Coast. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I actually just do a few takes of the entire song, and then we go back and adjust what we need to? And they're like, yeah, I guess, sure. I was like, great. And it's just it's a more authentic way to deliver a song. Because there's a way to build a song emotionally that you can't really do when you're recording it chopped up in sections. So that's like the biggest thing I learned from them. And also just having fun. They just love music. They're not afraid to try crazy shit. And yeah.
It's a fun time with them boys.
Yeah.
We also got a big event coming up here pretty quick. It's a thing called South by.
Yeah.
Brace yourself. What are your feelings on it?
Well, last South by ended in me having a kidney infection.
Yeah, that's not good.
So I'm going to try. My main goal this year is to not end up in the emergency room. Pretty low bar. I'm going to drink a lot of water. I also, this year, I told my manager, she was like, do we want to like try to get you on some showcases or book you something? Because I didn't make official artist again. And I was like, you know what? Let's just sit back and see what happens. And my schedule's already filling up. People have been reaching out to me for shows and stuff, and they're good shows this year that are actually worth my time.
Are they paying shows?
And they're paying shows.
Good. Okay.
Yes. We're not doing the no paid show thing because that's some bullshit.
Yeah, it is. I think another local Austin band made a post that kind of was circumventing the other artists in the industry, saying like a lot of companies are coming into this town just to give free exposure.
A lot of people have been talking about that. Yeah.
So what is your official statement to those companies that want to just pay you an exposure?
I get it. Like as a business owner, as a company, I understand. And unfortunately, there are a lot of artists out there who will take those gigs because they want the exposure and they don't have enough on their resume to like maybe secure a lot of paying gigs. I understand that. However, as a company, if you want to be putting on a good showcase with really talented, competent artists, you're going to have to pay. And a lot of us aren't asking for that much money. We're just asking for enough to pay our guys, to like pay for our time. We're not even asking for a whole lot here. Don't know for sure. I have a feeling they could probably afford it, and this is just a corner they're cutting. And I do think it's good for a lot of us like professionals in town to not be taking those shows, because maybe it'll send them a message like, you can't. Would you expect to give your services or your product away for free as a company? Would you expect that? Why would you expect me as an artist? I don't do this just for fun. Like, why would you expect me to give away my time and all of the years and the practice I put into my craft for free to promote your company? Tell me how that makes sense. Respectfully. That's my official statement.
Okay. Yes. Got it. You heard it here, folks. Hot takes. What does the official South by Southwest artist, what does that get you? What is that? Is it a badge, entry into cool events?
I've never been an official South by artist, but from what I've heard from my friends who have been, they pay you very little.
Yeah.
And they get you a music badge so you can go into whatever event you want, which is pretty arbitrary because you can kind of get in anywhere anyway for the most part.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Like a badge gets you in more places, but you're still going to see a lot of really cool unofficial shows.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. So I'm not too torn up about that. It's a cool thing to have on the resume though, for sure.
No, yeah. It just seems like it's a shit show downtown every year. And to fathom trying to get all your gear, all your equipment from location to location and be paid a very small fee for all that work, it just seems like, I don't know, it's not worth the squeeze.
My bass player last year said that he played like 22, 23 gigs during South by. Like it was ridiculous, multiple gigs a day. And he made $200.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I was like, bruv, never, don't do that again. Like I'm begging you. I will pay you more money to play less shows. Just don't do that. Cause he was like, he was on the edge. But that's a common thing. It's not just him.
Right.
People will run themselves ragged playing 3 or 4 shows a day at South by, lugging their gear from place to place. And I've seen it. I've seen my friends do it. I've done it. And they're not putting on their best performances. They're not sleeping, and they're not making any money.
Yeah.
And also, it's like what exposure, the possible connections. We have to, as artists, let go of the FOMO. And I struggle with this because, I'm not going to play 16 shows during South by this year. That might mean that I'll miss out on this one music supervisor missing my performance, or maybe somebody from a record label not seeing me or something like that. But ultimately, I can't control that. We won't know for sure. You could play 16 shows and have no opportunities come from it, which was my experience. My life didn't change because I ran myself ragged last year. All it did was send me to the hospital. So like we need to let go of that. If we just stay consistent, keep doing what we're doing, put on our best performances we can, I think that's eventually in time, it's going to show for itself. It's going to pay off.
Now, in your opinion, why is South by Southwest so popular?
I don't know, man. I'm a transplant to Austin, so
Okay.
I don't even feel like I have an authority to speak on it too much. But I think what I heard is that it used to be a really big deal for bands and artists. If you were an official artist, like, boom, that was it. Like, it was to the moon after that. Nowadays, I know lots of people who have been South by official artists, and it hasn't really changed. It's been almost a lateral move.
Yeah.
It hasn't done a whole lot for them.
I guess the point of that question was like, how do you manage the economic powerhouse that is, or the economic potential that is South by Southwest, because it does bring a lot of good to the city. It gets, there's a lot of money coming in. But how do you balance that with the artistry of South by Southwest? I guess, how would you do it better?
Well, like,
in your perfect world.
As a capitalist and an American, I am, and like, from an economical standpoint, I think it's great for what it does for the city. It also gets the city to clean up a little bit. They always clean up the river and the encampments and stuff right before South by, which is nice. So it's clean nice for like 5 minutes, which is cool. So that's great that it brings a lot of money into the city, and it helps support the citizens of Austin throughout the rest of the year by boosting our economy. That's fantastic. What was the second part of the question?
How would you make it better, more viable how do you find the balance between being the corporate monster that South by Southwest is, but also like make it cool again?
Man, that's such a good question. I don't know. 'Cause as an artist, I have my opinions on how I might run things, but I know that there's so many moving parts and so many factors that go into it. I think that the tech side of South by has like really, really exploded, and which is fine. I know that's the world we live in, and like everybody wants to talk about AI and everything. That's great. I think how South by is going lately is an indication of, it's a microcosm of what's happening in Austin and like everywhere, which is live music and good music. Like the meritocracy of music is fading. I think we've known that for a while. Music is not a meritocracy, and you could be the best singer in the world and nobody's ever heard of you. And you could be the best band and put on the best show, but not be an official South by artist. It is very political. Everybody who is in it has told me, like, there's certain things they look for in South by artists to check certain boxes, which I get and I respect, but also it's a little bit hard for me because I feel like I put on a good show, and I know my band is good, but that's just not enough these days. So it's not just, I think the larger like discussion is, in general, music venues are dissolving in Austin, or they're switching over to DJs, or they're not doing music at all. They're shutting down. There's a lot of vacancies down on 6th Street, and there have been for a while. And everything is moved online on TikTok and whatnot. And I don't want to sit here and be that curmudgeon, like grumpy person who says like, oh, screw TikTok and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I know that the world changes and we have to get with it. But I do wish that we could get back to rewarding people for their talent and their hard work, and not just what they look like or the political talking points that they adhere to. Yeah. I wish that music was a little less, I wish music and South by was less political, because that's not why I got into this industry. I got away from politics because it stresses me the fuck out. I want to be a singer, and I want to spread light and unity, and the algorithms hate that, and it doesn't reward me in a lot of ways. People don't want to hear about like peace and love and stuff.
Yes, I agree with that. No one wants to hear the good things that are happening around the world. It's very easy to dive into all the terrible, horrible things around the world. But I think as a creative myself, I think there's a responsibility to try to make an effort to put out better content that people can utilize and maybe fulfill their life in a better way. I just think I saw the shrinking of attention spans just kind of dwindling down to 1 second Instagram reels. I'm like, really? That's what we're doing. We're just going to do that. So in an effort to try to combat that, that's why I'm putting out this podcast, long form content, and really expose the authenticity of individuals, of artists, of people in different industries. And I think it like the change, and this is corny, but the change ultimately has to start with you and your habits and your consuming habits. And that's the whole point of this show and podcast. So when it comes to the economy of being a musician, if you, let's say you're a brand new artist, you don't know anything about anything, how would you go about starting your music career right now in 2025?
First of all, practice, okay? Because although music isn't a true meritocracy, you do still have to have a base level of talent and competency. So practice your instrument, whether it's your voice or your guitar or your drums or whatever. And if I were talking to, like, let's say a 16-year-old girl who wants to be a singer, write her own songs and really take off, definitely you do have to get online. I don't post a lot to TikTok. Instagram is my thing. But TikTok and Instagram, whatever, putting up videos, and they don't have to be complicated or well edited or whatever, just short videos, just to prove that you're out there and you're hustling, just to show people what you're doing. And networking with people. So talking to people, going to open mics and jams, making friends, building a band, writing, co-writing is not a big thing in Austin. It's a much bigger thing in like Atlanta and LA and New York. But co-writing is such a good way to get better at your craft, to meet other people, and to just expand your world creatively. So collaborating is huge. And also just learning how to be like a cool person who's respectful and nice and asks questions. Be curious. If you're 16, just recognize that you probably still have a lot to learn. So when you walk into a room with somebody who's been in the industry longer, respect your elders, respect their wisdom and how long they've spent doing this. And even if you think you're right about something, like just be like cool and respectful. That's a really quick, easy way to make friends and get people to like you. And if people like you, they're going to call you for work and take opportunities. I used to not want to take backup vocal opportunities. No, I'm not going to sing on your track for backup vocals. No, I'm not going to sing backups in your band because I'm better than that or whatever. Guess what I do now? I sing backup vocals in a band. And I just went over to 601 the other day and sang backups for Grayson.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was so fun, dude. Because guess what? It's cross-training. I got to stretch my voice in a way I don't typically do. I get to learn other people's songs and melodies that I didn't write. And so it's making me better. It's stretching my muscles in a way that I wouldn't have done on my own. And you're just getting in rooms with more people and making more connections. So like, don't be above those things as long as you have the bandwidth. Don't be above any project. Just when you're 16, do as much as you possibly can, write and record with anybody and everybody. And they're not all going to be masterpieces, okay? And they're not all going to be your friends, but some of them are. And some of those friends you're going to have for the rest of your life and the rest of your career.
I do think being online is an important way to get the exposure, but also you need to learn how to utilize it as a tool.
It's a tool.
And it could be a very addictive tool. And you're always looking for those likes. So you're always looking for the exposure. But I feel like we're kind of learning how this thing works. It's a very new thing to be able to communicate with someone instantly way across the world. It's not always a good thing to be able to do that, but if you utilize it right and in a proper way, and if you're an authentic human being, an artist, then I think that exposure is going to serve you well. But you need to do it for your own craft and your own artistry instead of like likes and exposure.
Exactly.
That'll come.
Yeah.
Ruthie, we are well over an hour. I don't think you've answered all my questions.
I just noticed you have Seattle socks on.
I do. Again,
the Space Needle. That's awesome.
I love the place. After spending a week there, I don't know if I want to move there, but I used to tell my wife if all of my friends immediately died and we had no one else here in Austin, yeah, that's how drastic I get, then we would pick up and move to the Pacific Northwest. But after spending some time in there, I love visiting. I just like Texas too much, except with this bullshit cold weather that we had for about like a week and a half.
Oh,
or
well,
it
be
was
careful what you
miserable.
wish for, because I'm sure in 2 weeks we're going to be back to sweating our
Don't even.
faces
Yeah,
off.
I love that too. I'm a big fan of sweating. I love
Really?
that. I would much rather be sweating with a swampy ass.
Then cold?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Then
100%, all the way.
I don't like shivering. But
No, neither do I.
all right. Anything else? Any shows coming up? Any big residencies?
For South by, we have a couple cool shows.
Are they badge only?
No, they're unofficial. But one of them is not totally confirmed yet.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's gonna happen,
Sure.
but I just don't want to release it yet. But one of them for sure on March 16th is Recovery ATX. It's like a recovery takeover fundraiser for Sims at Empire. And Wheatus, Teenage Dirtbag. I'm just a teenage dirtbag. They're headlining. We got Unlikely Candidates, Nolo, Angel White, me, a couple of other really dope bands on the lineup. And it's a completely sober event. So if you're in recovery or just want to take a break from drinking, then that's a great place to do that. It's going to be a really, really fun show. We're going to be performing at 5:30 p.m. in the garage. No, sorry, the control room. So that's where you'll find us. And then I will announce these shows as soon as they're confirmed. So keep an eye on my Instagram and RuthieCraft.com if you want to see me during South by.
You got a website?
Yeah, RuthieCraft.com.
Man, that's awesome. I think more artists that's another thing. I think more artists need to understand how corporate world works, because they have successful business structures that you can take and implement into your own entrepreneurial career. I know that's not the cool thing to do, to go corporate, but there's some elements in there that are really beneficial, like spreadsheets.
Yeah. Spreadsheets and websites. They're not sexy, but I tell you, I couldn't live without them.
Yeah. All right, Ruthie, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you driving all the way from wherever the hell you live all the way to here.
10 minutes away. What a trek.
I know. But yeah, it does take a lot to come over here, and I really appreciate your time. So thank you so much. All right, America. Thank you so much for tuning in. Every view matters to me. Every like matters. So thank you for all of that. Be sure to like, subscribe, all those good things, and we'll see you on the next one. God bless.